In the heart of the deep ocean, where light cannot reach, a giant creature rises, with scales like armor, eyes shining like the dawn, and breath that spews fire, burning everything. Do you dare to face Leviathan? In the cold darkness of the deep ocean, where not a single ray of light penetrates, a movement begins. Small ripples quietly spread, then quickly turn into violent waves, as if the ocean itself is trembling. From the seabed, Leviathan rises, a colossal, majestic creature, its massive body like a living mountain, coiled in the pitch-black water. Based on the description in Job 41, Leviathan appears not merely as a beast, but as an embodiment of primal power, far beyond human imagination. Scales tight like invulnerable armor. The scales of Leviathan are not ordinary flesh. They are iron shields, so tightly fitted that no arrow, sword, or spear can pierce them. Each scale glimmers in the darkness, like armor forged by the Creator's hand, defying all human weapons. No warrior, no matter how brave, can scratch this protective layer. Eyes bright like the sun, Leviathan's eyes blaze like two torches, dispelling the ocean's darkness. They are not merely light, they are the light of dawn, dazzling and majestic, forcing all creatures to bow their heads. When Leviathan gazes around, its eyes seem to pierce through every mystery, carrying terror and awe. Breath that burns like coal. From Leviathan's mouth, its breath is not a faint mist. It is a blazing red flame, so hot that it turns seawater into boiling steam. Like coal burning in a furnace, its breath is a symbol of destructive power, a primal fire capable of consuming everything if not restrained by supreme authority. Leviathan is not a creature that humans can conquer or tame. It is the embodiment of primal strength, a creation beyond human control. No sword is sharp enough, no spear strong enough to touch Leviathan. Only God, the Creator, has the power to subdue this being. Leviathan's invulnerability is not just a physical trait. It is a declaration of God's absolute power. No one dares to challenge Leviathan. The largest ships are crushed under its might, and the greatest heroes become insignificant in its presence. Leviathan stands not as a beast to be hunted, but as a living testament that there are powers in this universe that humans can never overcome. Only God is the master. Why does God boast about a fearsome creature like Leviathan to Job? What is the mystery behind this beast? Leviathan is a unique figure in the Bible, most prominently featured in Job 41, but also appearing in Psalms and Isaiah. It is not merely a legendary monster, but a vivid testament to God's infinite creative power and humanity's limitations. Leviathan in Job 41, God describes Leviathan as a creature no one can subdue, with strength far beyond human reach. Through this, God shows Job that he controls all forces in the universe, even the most terrifying ones. Leviathan in Psalms and Isaiah. In Psalm 74:14, Leviathan is defeated by God, symbolizing victory over chaos. Psalm 104, verse 26, portrays it as a joyful part of God's creation. In Isaiah 27:1, Leviathan becomes the serpent destroyed on the day of judgment, emphasizing God's supreme power. Leviathan is not just a beast, it is a profound theological symbol. Through its appearances in the Bible, Leviathan conveys different messages, from creative power and protection to the promise of God's ultimate justice. In the book of Job, Leviathan appears to address Job's questions about suffering. Instead of providing a direct explanation, God points to Leviathan, a creature humans cannot comprehend or control, to affirm that he holds everything, even the mightiest forces. Leviathan reminds us that God is the supreme creator, with power and wisdom far beyond human understanding. No matter how much we try to explain the world, there will always be mysteries that belong solely to God. Each sentence in Job 41 paints a vivid picture of Leviathan. Are you ready to explore every astonishing detail of this creature? In chapter 41 of the book of Job, God sketches a detailed portrait of Leviathan, a majestic creature that surpasses all human imagination. This is not merely a description of a beast, but a declaration of God's creative power. Through each sentence, we are led into a world where Leviathan's strength becomes a testament to the greatness of the Creator. God begins with challenging questions. Can you catch Leviathan with a hook or tie its tongue with a rope? Can you put a cord through its nose or pierce its jaw with a hook? Job 41, 1-2. These questions are not meant to be answered, but to emphasize a truth. Leviathan is invulnerable. No fisherman, no matter how skilled, can catch it like a fish. No warrior can bind or control it. This image evokes human helplessness before a creature far beyond their capabilities, while affirming that only God has the power to subdue Leviathan. Next, God describes Leviathan's scales, a feature that makes it nearly invincible. Its back has rows of shields tightly sealed together. Each is so close to the next that no air can pass between them. Job 41:15-16. Imagine a perfect suit of armor, forged from the strongest material, with no gaps for arrows or spears to penetrate. Leviathan's scales are not just skin, but a symbol of absolute physical strength. No human weapon, whether bow, arrow, or sharp sword, can harm it. This characteristic not only highlights Leviathan's fearsomeness, but also showcases God's ingenuity in designing such a perfect creature. Finally, the description of Leviathan's breath brings us to an almost supernatural image. Flames dart from its mouth, sparks of fire shoot out. Smoke pours from its nostrils as from a boiling pot over burning reeds. Its breath sets coals ablaze, and flames dart from its mouth. Job 41, verse 19-21. This image recalls Western legends of dragons, with fire and smoke rising powerfully. Leviathan's breath is not only terrifying, but also carries destructive power, capable of turning water into boiling steam or burning everything in its path. This feature underscores Leviathan's uniqueness compared to any other creature, emphasizing that it is not just a sea beast, but a creation with near-divine strength. To truly appreciate the power and beauty of the language in Job 41, take a moment to read these verses expressively. The narrator can use a solemn tone, emphasizing each image to evoke awe. Can you catch Leviathan with a hook or tie its tongue with a rope? Its back has rows of shields tightly sealed so that no air can pass between them. Flames dart from its mouth, smoke pours from its nostrils like a boiling pot over fire. These words, with their rhythm and vivid imagery, not only describe Leviathan, but also bring us closer to the greatness of God, who created such a being. The description of Leviathan in Job 41 is one of the longest and most detailed passages about a creature in the Bible. Unlike brief mentions of other creations, God devotes an entire chapter to portraying Leviathan, from its impenetrable scales to its fiery breath. This focus highlights Leviathan's importance as a symbol of creative power, designed to astonish and provoke reflection in humans. Each of Leviathan's features, from its invulnerability, armor-like scales, to its fiery breath, is not meant to glorify itself, but to honor God's power. Leviathan is not an independent creature, but part of God's creative plan, created to illustrate that only He can control the mightiest forces in the universe. It also hides in other books with unexpected roles. Can you guess what they are? Let's explore Leviathan's journey through Psalms and Isaiah to see how it reflects different aspects of God's power and plan. Unlike the detailed, fearsome description in Job 41, Leviathan here takes on multiple roles, from a symbol of a defeated enemy to a playful creature in the ocean, and finally, an image of chaos to be destroyed. Psalm 74:14, victory over the enemy. In Psalm 74:14, the Bible writes, "You crushed the heads of Leviathan and gave it as food to the creatures of the desert." Here, Leviathan is depicted as a multi-headed sea monster, symbolizing chaos or the enemies of Israel, possibly Pharaoh and the Egyptian army defeated at the Red Sea. God's act of crushing its heads demonstrates absolute victory over forces opposing him. Leviathan becoming food for desert creatures evokes the image of God providing for his people after destroying their enemies, emphasizing his justice and protective power. Psalm 104:26, God's playful creature. In Psalm 104:26, Leviathan appears in a completely different light. There the ships go to and fro, and Leviathan, which you formed to frolic there. In this hymn of creation, Leviathan is no longer a threat, but a creature playing in the vast ocean. This image shows God as a creative creator, making not only useful beings, but also majestic, mysterious creatures like Leviathan to express joy and diversity in his work. Isn't it remarkable? A creature once described as fearsome is now a symbol of vitality and harmony in creation. Isaiah 27:1. defeating chaos on the day of judgment. In Isaiah 27:1, Leviathan carries prophetic meaning. In that day, the Lord will punish with his sword, his fierce, great, and powerful sword. Leviathan, the gliding serpent, Leviathan, the coiling serpent. He will slay the monster of the sea. Here, Leviathan symbolizes chaos or evil forces, possibly related to hostile nations like Babylon. God's promise to destroy Leviathan on that day brings hope for the final judgment, when all forces opposing him will be defeated and divine order restored. The image of the coiling serpent recalls Western dragon legends, but in the Bible, Leviathan is always a creature under God's control. In Job 41, Leviathan is detailed as a majestic sea creature with armor-like scales, fiery breath, and untamable strength, emphasizing God's creative power. In Psalm 74:14, it symbolizes an enemy defeated by God, showcasing his victorious power. Psalm 104, verse 26, presents Leviathan as a joyful part of creation, illustrating God's joyful creativity. Finally, in Isaiah 27:1, Leviathan represents chaos to be destroyed, affirming God's judgmental power. Despite its various roles, from a fearsome monster, a playful creature, to a symbol of evil, Leviathan is always under God's control. This diversity highlights the complexity of Leviathan's symbolism, reflecting different aspects of God's power and intent. Leviathan appears in various forms, from a chaotic monster to a playful sea creature. This diversity shows that in the Bible, symbols can carry multiple layers of meaning, reflecting the richness and complexity of creation and God's plan. Regardless of its role, whether a defeated enemy, a playful creature, or a symbol of chaos, Leviathan is always under God's control. No creation, no matter how powerful or fearsome, can escape the Creator's dominion. Leviathan is a versatile symbol, illustrating God's power in both creation and judgment. Through passages in Psalms and Isaiah, we see that God not only creates majestic beings like Leviathan, but also controls and defeats all chaotic forces. This reminds us of God's greatness and absolute sovereignty, who holds every aspect of the universe. Leviathan, a beast or a deeper symbol? Scholars have debated for centuries, and the answer will surprise you. Leviathan is not just a majestic creature in the Bible, it carries profound theological meanings, reflecting God's power and intent. Through the books of Job, Psalms, and Isaiah, scholars have offered various interpretations of Leviathan, from a symbol of chaos, an image of enemies, to a testament to the greatness of the Creator. Each interpretation sheds light on an aspect of the relationship between God and His creation. In ancient Near Eastern cultures, the sea often symbolized chaos, and myths told of gods defeating sea monsters to establish order. Leviathan, with its image of a giant sea serpent, seems to bear the mark of this tradition. In the Bible, God is described as the one who controls the seas, as in Genesis 1:6-10, when He separated the waters to create order. Thus, Leviathan can be understood as the embodiment of chaotic forces that only God can subdue. Theologian John Day, in his study of Near Eastern mythology, states, "Leviathan is a mythical chaos monster, symbolizing the chaotic forces that Yahweh subdued at creation. This image emphasizes that no force, no matter how fearsome, can challenge God's power. In Isaiah 27:1, Leviathan is called the coiling serpent that God will destroy on the day of judgment. Many scholars link this image to hostile nations, like Babylon, or even to spiritual evil forces, such as Satan. In the prophetic context, Leviathan becomes a symbol of what opposes God's kingdom, but will ultimately be defeated by Him. According to the Expositor's Bible commentary, Leviathan in Isaiah may represent the chaotic and evil forces opposing God's kingdom, but they will be destroyed on the final day. This interpretation highlights God's promise of justice and ultimate victory over all opposing forces. In Job 41, Leviathan is described in detail as an untamable creature, with scales like armor and breath that spews fire, to emphasize that only God can control it. Similarly, in Psalm 104, verse 26, Leviathan is a creature playing in the sea, showing it as part of God's joyful creation plan. Theologian Tremper Longman III affirms, "Leviathan is not Satan or a demon. It is a natural creature created by God, with the purpose of glorifying His power. This view emphasizes that Leviathan, though majestic and fearsome, is not an evil force but a testament to God's great creation and absolute control. To enhance credibility, quotes from John Day and Tremper Longman III are included, representing two main perspectives: Leviathan as a mythical symbol and as God's creature. Additionally, the Expositor's Bible Commentary provides a reliable source for interpreting Leviathan in Isaiah's prophetic context. These references help European and American audiences, who are accustomed to scholarly analysis, feel that the content is well-founded and trustworthy. Leviathan is not a demon or a force opposing God, as some later traditions suggest. Instead, it is part of God's creation plan, designed to highlight His control and power. This distinction is crucial, as it reshapes how we understand Leviathan, not as a threat, but as a testament to the Creator's greatness. Whether interpreted as a symbol of chaos, an image of enemies, or a testament to God's power, Leviathan always points to God's supremacy. Every aspect of Leviathan, from its fearsome strength to its role in creation, serves the purpose of glorifying the Creator, who controls all creatures, no matter how majestic. Leviathan invites us to reflect on God's infinite power and humanity's humble place in the universe. It challenges us to trust in His sovereignty, even when facing mysterious or fearsome things we cannot understand or control. What can an ancient creature like Leviathan teach us in the modern world? Let's explore these timeless lessons. Leviathan, with its majestic image and untamable strength, is not just a story in the Bible, but also offers profound lessons for today's life. Through Leviathan, we learn three important lessons: humility, faith in God, and awe before His great creation. These lessons, though rooted in an ancient creature, still hold powerful meaning in the modern world, from global crises to personal challenges. Leviathan reminds us of humility. In Job 41, God describes Leviathan as a creature that no one can catch or control, no matter how strong they are. Hooks cannot pierce its jaw, ropes cannot bind it. Leviathan's superior strength shows that there are forces in this universe that humans cannot conquer. In the modern world, we often pride ourselves on our achievements, advanced technology, modern medicine, or the ability to predict the weather. But when faced with natural disasters like storms, earthquakes, or floods, we realize that science can only help us prepare, not prevent. Have you ever felt helpless in a situation beyond your control? It could be a major storm, an unexpected accident, or an incurable disease. Leviathan teaches us that in such times, we need to recognize our limitations and respect God's power, who controls everything. Leviathan encourages us to place our faith in God, even in a chaotic world. In the book of Job, God uses Leviathan to show Job that He holds all power, even over the most powerful and mysterious forces. Though Job could not understand the reason for his suffering, Leviathan reminded him that God is still in control and He has a plan beyond human comprehension. Think about recent crises, like the COVID-19 pandemic, when the whole world faced a tiny virus with enormous consequences. Despite medical advances, we still faced helplessness and uncertainty. Or in personal life, when you face difficulties like job loss, illness, or family conflicts, you may feel like everything is falling apart. Leviathan teaches us that God is still in control, just as He controls this majestic creature. When the world seems chaotic, can you believe that God is still at work? Leviathan invites us to place our faith in His wisdom and love, knowing that He has a good plan for us. Finally, Leviathan inspires awe before God's great creation. The description of Leviathan in Job 41, with scales like armor, breath that spews fire, and eyes shining like dawn, makes us marvel at God's creation. In Psalm 104, verse 26, Leviathan is depicted as a creature playing in the sea, part of God's joyful creation. In the natural world, we see the Creator's mark through wonders like the deep ocean, majestic mountains, or the starry sky. Each new scientific discovery, from strange creatures at the bottom of the sea to distant galaxies, is a reminder of God's greatness. When you admire the beauty of nature, perhaps a brilliant sunset or the sound of waves crashing on the shore, do you feel God's presence? Leviathan invites us to open our eyes to see the Creator's greatness, who designed a universe full of wonder and mystery. Leviathan is not just an ancient story, it is a living reminder of faith and humility. In a world where humans often boast of their abilities, Leviathan brings us back to the truth that there is a higher, more powerful being. It is not just a creature in the Bible, but a timeless symbol, encouraging us to live with faith and reverence. The lessons from Leviathan encourage us to trust in God in all circumstances. Whether facing great challenges or daily difficulties, we can find comfort in His power. Leviathan teaches us that God controls everything, and we are invited to worship and trust Him. Leviathan teaches us to bow before God and seek comfort in His power. Let the story of this majestic creature inspire you in your faith journey, reminding you that in all situations, God holds everything. As we close the story of Leviathan, what will you take away from this majestic creature? Leviathan is not just a creature in the Bible, but a timeless symbol that connects us to the power and wisdom of God. The journey of exploring Leviathan has taken us through inspiring pages of the Bible, from vivid descriptions to profound meanings and practical lessons for today's life. We began with the image of Leviathan in Job 41, an untamable creature with scales like armor, breath that spews fire, and eyes shining like the dawn. These details not only amaze us, but also affirm that only God has the power to control such a majestic creation. Next, we see Leviathan in other contexts of the Bible. In Psalm 74:14, it is the enemy defeated by God, symbolizing His victory over chaos. In Psalm 104, verse 26, Leviathan plays in the sea, a part of God's joyful creation. And in Isaiah 27:1, it is the serpent that will be destroyed on the day of judgment, illustrating God's promise of ultimate justice. Theologically, Leviathan carries many meanings. A symbol of chaos that only God can control, an image of the enemy He will defeat, and a testament to the great creation that glorifies Him. These interpretations highlight the supremacy of God, who controls all creatures, no matter how powerful. More importantly, Leviathan brings practical lessons for our lives. It teaches us humility, recognizing our limitations before God's power. It encourages faith, reminding us that despite the world's chaos, God still holds everything. And it inspires awe, inviting us to contemplate the greatness of the Creator through the wonders of creation. Leviathan is a timeless symbol that connects humanity to the power and wisdom of God. Not just an ancient story, Leviathan still speaks to us today, encouraging us to live with faith, humility, and reverence. No matter how powerful, Leviathan is still God's creation, and we are called to worship the Creator, who holds everything in His hands. Leviathan's strength is not to glorify itself, but to point to God's greatness. Leviathan reminds us that in all chaos, God is still the one who holds everything. Before you leave, ask yourself, how can the story of Leviathan encourage you to trust in God amidst life's challenges? Let the image of this majestic creature inspire you to delve deeper into the Bible, discovering more about the greatness and love of the Creator.